In this bulletin, 4 new COVID-19 cases confirmed. No lockdown yet for Suva. And non-COVID filled hospital for Lautoka. After another 1,723 tests, 4 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed yesterday. The first is another border quarantine case, a 47-year-old nurse at the Rewanga Health Center, as well as her husband and a 25-year-old nurse working within Lautoka Hospital. Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong says the recent case from Lautoka Hospital proves that the source is from the community after all tests were carried out.
This is a reassuring affirmation of the operational protocols of our COVID isolation ward, which must be maintained as the most secure facility in the country. Unfortunately, that's where the good news ends, because this indicates that the community is the most likely source of the Lautoka Hospital outbreak.
The Ministry of Health will be setting up a 150-bed non-COVID filled hospital in Lautoka to cater for non-COVID patients. The ministry aims to set up this field hospital in 48 hours to handle patients with illnesses that can be treated on a 21-day timeline. Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong says this hospital will enforce strict COVID-19 screening and security measures to ensure it is a COVID-free facility.
Extending from the field hospital will be clear patient flow pathways that allow patients to be moved securely to other hospitals and healthcare facilities if necessary. We also manage staffing within the field hospital in response to patient demand.
Dr. Fong says they have spoken to several private general practitioners in the Nandi Lautoka Mba area to open their clinics to Fijians who normally cannot afford to visit a private practitioner. The government will be footing the bill for the services provided by these general practitioners. The Health Ministry says it has not announced a lockdown for the Greater Suva area as there are a number of logistics which need to be looked at. This comes as a nurse from Rewanga Health Center and her husband are amongst the latest 4 positive cases. When asked on why a lockdown to safeguard a populated area such as Rewanga has not been implemented, Dr. Fong says they need to be sure that it is needed before shutting places down.
The point about the lockdown is that it's no point just locking down for the sake of locking down. I have to lock down an area where I can say this is an area that I can, the lockdown has to serve a purpose where I can actually find people and pull them in. If during a lockdown period I can't find people, there's no point.
Meanwhile, those at Wainitarau in Cunningham Stage 1 have to wait for clearance from health teams with some final checks left before they are cleared to move. The latest COVID death means Fiji needs to do everything possible to keep the virus at bay and stamp it out of the country. World Health Organization representative to the South Pacific, Dr. Akim Ali, says some tough choices need to be made right now. Dr. Ali says they stand ready to support the Health Ministry and the Fijian government and all partners working tirelessly to control the virus.
What that means for us and the challenge to continue to provide essential health services and other services in the country is that we really, really must address this very serious public health emergency.
The Fiji Police Force can now make arrests of people and businesses failing to follow physical distancing rules in Suva. Acting Commissioner of Police Rusiati Tunravu confirmed this to FBC News following a meeting with the Suva City Council yesterday afternoon. Apinisa Wangai Randovu with the details.
Any business in a public space that does not have markings for physical distancing will be answerable to the law.
Identification of mark that needs to be done there. If that is not complied with, and then we can effect arrest on that. That's empowered under the legal notice.
Tunrabu says this is the same for people who will not practice the measure. Suva City Council Chairman Isikeli Tigundondo says the efforts had been made to create utmost awareness in the communities and enforcement shall now be greatly strengthened. The Suva Retailers Association says their members have been told about their social responsibilities during this period.
Yesterday they were out in the field and discussing this with the supermarkets and the pharmacies that are open, that please, they have to follow the rules as well and enforce it.
The council will be working closely with the Fiji Police Force to ensure that the same measures are stringently applied at the supermarket and the super bus station. Apinisong Garindobu, FBC News.
The trade and export market has been on a volatile trend lately, with some markets seeing an increase while others recorded major declines. Investment Fiji says there is a demand in international markets for specific products, with cover and wood chips among the most sought-out commodity. Koroitan Dulala reports.
While cover exports have increased by $11 million, with the USA being our major buyer, some other markets have recorded major losses.
But there's also some markets that have decreased. So in terms of export performance for Fiji, US has decreased by about 38 million, mostly driven by mineral water. But in US, there are certain products that have increased, like kava and also turmeric, that have seen a lot of increase.
Investment Fiji says the latest figures highlight that global trade and services are projected to decrease by 9%.
And in terms of other markets that have decreased is Japan. Japan has also decreased by about 17 million due to wood chips. So these are kind of the performance at the moment if you look at Fiji.
Put less pressure on our foreign exchange and less pressure on our import. So if this slowness does that, it's kind of blessing.
The recent figure released by the Fiji Bureau of Statistics indicate domestic trade dropped by 3%, attributed to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Investment Fiji is conducting an e-trade expo in a bid to explore new trade markets and attract international investors. Koroitan Dulala, FBC News.
Up ahead, Haine Plainlands Jail. Esther Eyes Ndrua. Stay with us. Welcome back. Former Fiji Mbati fullback Jared Haine has been sentenced to a maximum 5 years and 9 months in jail. The Fiji Rugby Union has less than 2 months to secure private investors to finally seal the Fijian Drua spot in next year's Super Rugby competition. After being granted a provisional license by New Zealand Rugby last month, the Drua are starting to attract some interest, including Hawaii-based Kanaloa Pacifica. Kanaloa CEO Tracy Atiga revealing to ABC's Pacific Beat they stand ready to assist the Drua. Kaiviti's Silktails head coach Wes Naingama has commended his senior players for stepping up and leading the team in the Ron Messi Cup. The Silktails have been in Australia for close to 3 months now to compete in the tournament, and Naingama is pleased his senior players have been paving the way for the young team. Penyoni Tangi Tuimua has been doing a good job leading the pack consistently.
Probably the standouts, probably Penyoni. Our captain, he's led from the front every week, has been really consistent. Getting the boys, through games and that. Also, probably, Pio Steady was a standout before he got suspended.
The younger players say they're enjoying the competition.
The competition here is intense, and we are happy that we can learn from other teams, and also the older players help us a lot.
The level of competition in Fiji is not the same as the one here, but we have the coach, senior players that guide us through.
The Silktails are in 6th place with 8 points after having registered 3 wins and 3 losses so far this season. Silktails play Hawks on Saturday at 5 p.m. Veninarako. Taking a look at the weather, cloudy periods with some showers and isolated thunderstorms over the eastern parts and interior of the larger islands. Elsewhere, fine apart from isolated afternoon showers. That's FBC Morning News. Join us at 7 p.m. for our major bulletin. For news you can trust, get the facts from FBC's TV, radio and digital news at fbcnews.com.fj. Take care and good morning.